Sometimes, in the dead of night, a house isn't just bricks and walls. Sometimes it breathes with you, watches you, and quietly steals something. Your peace, your sleep, sometimes your life. This story begins with Syra. Syra worked at a small private firm in the city. Her house was an old family property tucked away at the far end of a forgotten street, an ancient, creaking house that used to be her childhood home. She hadn't been there for over 15 years. When she was young, the house was always full. Her parents, her little sister, her uncle who'd gifted them the house. But then one night, something happened. She never remembered exactly what, just that when the police found her, she was alone, the only one left. Years passed. Syra grew up in hostels and rented apartments. When she finally got a modest job, she couldn't afford rent in the city for long. So she thought, why not move back? It's free. It's hers. On the first evening back, she cleaned every room. Dust rose from old cupboards. Spiders fled from corners that hadn't seen light in years. She changed the curtains, laid out her small suitcase, and by midnight, she fell asleep in what used to be her parents' old bedroom. That first night, she heard something. A soft, dragging sound, like something heavy sliding across the wooden floor, somewhere behind the wall. She sat up, listening, but the noise stopped the moment she held her breath. It must be rats, she told herself and forced her eyes shut. Then came the dream. In her dream, she wasn't in her room anymore. She was standing in a cold, windowless hallway she didn't recognize. The walls were damp, covered in flaking gray paint. A single bulb flickered above her head. On the wall opposite, someone had scrawled in what looked like blood. "Why did you come back?" Syra jerked awake. Her heart was pounding so hard it hurt. She stumbled to the kitchen for water, the floorboards groaning under her bare feet. That's when she saw it. Muddy footprints, like a child's, trailing from the back door to the staircase. Small, wet, and perfectly clear on the dusty floor. She froze. The back door was still bolted shut. Who could have left them? She spent the rest of the night on the sofa with the TV on, anything to drown out the noises. By morning, she almost laughed it off. "Maybe I stepped outside myself," she whispered, ignoring how the footprints were too small for her own feet. The second night was worse. She locked her bedroom door this time. As she lay there, eyes wide open, she felt the house shifting. The creaks were not random anymore. They were footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Coming up the stairs, stopping outside her door. She squeezed her eyes shut, clutching her blanket so tightly her knuckles turned white. Knock. Knock. Two soft knocks, like a child asking permission to come in. She didn't breathe, didn't move. The knocks didn't come again. Hours passed before she finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. She woke to find her door open. Just a crack, enough to see out into the pitch-black hallway. The next day, she called a locksmith. He changed the locks on every door and window. She bought cameras for the hallway and bedroom door. That night, she sat on her bed, watching the live feed on her phone. Midnight. The feed flickered, glitched, went black. When it returned, she saw herself, sleeping in bed. But she wasn't sleeping. She was awake, watching her phone. She stared at the feed in horror. In the video, she saw something else too. A small shadow standing at the foot of her bed. A child, thin arms, pale skin, head tilted, hair dripping with water, watching her. Waiting. She couldn't turn around. She couldn't move. She just lay down slowly, pulling the blanket over her face, hoping, praying, begging it would go away. The next morning, the footage was gone. The cameras were dead. The house smelled faintly of something rotting. Syra tried to leave. She packed her bag, grabbed her keys, but the front door wouldn't open. The key snapped in the lock like a twig. The windows wouldn't budge, no matter how hard she tried. It was like the house had sealed itself shut. She spent the next 2 days inside, barely eating, barely sleeping. She could hear the child now, running in the attic at night, giggling in the darkness, whispering from inside the walls. "Play with me. Don't leave me alone." On the third night, she found the old basement door unlocked. In the darkness below, she saw toys, tiny dolls, a broken tricycle, a small muddy shoe that looked horribly familiar. She remembered flashes of that last night from her childhood. Her sister, the crying, the locked basement door. Syra felt small arms wrap around her waist from behind, a cold, wet whisper in her ear. "Stay with me. Forever." When they found the house months later, it was empty. No sign of forced entry, no sign of Syra, except for a child's muddy footprints that still appear fresh every time someone tries to open the front door. But no one stays long enough to clean them anymore, because the house is never truly empty. Sometimes the worst things hide in plain sight, and they wait until you're alone. The story begins with Arjun. Arjun had just moved into a small rented apartment in the outskirts of the city. He'd been saving up for years and finally found a place cheap enough to afford. Fully furnished, spacious, but old. Too old, actually. The landlord didn't ask too many questions, and Arjun didn't mind. He liked the silence. He liked being alone. The first night was fine. He set up his laptop, ate instant noodles, and fell asleep watching a movie. But halfway through the night, something woke him up. A soft knock. Not on the door, but right under his bed. He lay frozen, listening. Another knock. Then a scrape, like nails dragging across wood. "Maybe I'm dreaming," he told himself. He didn't dare look. Instead, he switched on his bedside lamp, waited a few minutes, and convinced himself it was just the old furniture settling. The next morning, he laughed it off and forgot all about it. But the second night, it happened again. This time, it was worse. He woke up to a whisper, so close it felt like someone was under the mattress, murmuring right beneath his ear. "Arjun Lin, look under the bed." He shot upright, heart hammering. The whisper stopped. He sat there for almost an hour, staring at the empty floor. He even got down and checked under the bed. Nothing but dust and shadows. "It's just my mind," he told himself. "I'm tired." The third night, he couldn't sleep at all. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt something shift under him. Like the mattress was breathing, like something was alive under there, pressing up against his spine. Then came the whisper again, clearer this time. "Why won't you look at me?" He jumped up, pulled the blanket off, and threw himself to the floor. He shone his phone flashlight under the bed. There was something there. At first, it looked like a bundle of old sheets, but then it moved. Slowly, the shape unfolded. Pale skin, bony fingers, eyes that glowed like wet glass in the light. It was a girl, no older than 12. Hair tangled, eyes sunken, mouth stretched too wide. She smiled. Arjun screamed and scrambled back. He heard a giggle, soft and sticky like a child's lullaby. He ran out of the bedroom and locked the door. He spent the rest of the night in the living room, lights on, hugging his knees. When dawn broke, he opened the bedroom door. There was nothing under the bed. He tried to leave that morning, but when he opened the front door, there was nothing. Just darkness. No hallway, no stairs. Just a pitch-black void that hummed like a distant storm. He slammed the door shut and backed away. The house creaked around him, as if the walls were whispering. Every mirror in the apartment now showed her, that pale girl, standing right behind him, smiling. No matter where he turned, he saw her. Sometimes she crawled on the ceiling in his reflection. Sometimes she crawled on the ceiling in his reflection. Sometimes she sat under his desk, staring. Sometimes she was in the kitchen, peeking out from behind the fridge. And every night, she waited under his bed. No one saw Arjun after that week. The landlord found the apartment unlocked, the furniture untouched, the bed neatly made. Underneath it, however, there were long scratch marks on the wooden floor, as if someone or something had been dragged underneath and never came back out. When Sarah's parents left for the weekend, she thought she'd finally have the old house to herself. She made popcorn, curled up with her favorite horror movie, and laughed at how fake it all looked. Around midnight, she heard footsteps upstairs. She froze. She was alone. She knew she was alone. The footsteps moved slowly across her ceiling, then stopped above the living room where she sat. She muted the TV. Silence. Her heart thudded so loudly she could barely breathe. Then the floor above her creaked again, closer to the stairs. Sarah grabbed her phone and whispered, "Mom? Dad?" But the call went straight to voicemail. Suddenly, the footsteps started running, pounding down the hallway, pounding down the stairs, but no one was there. She turned to run for the door, but the front door slammed shut on its own. The footsteps were behind her now, but when she looked, nothing. She heard breathing right in her ear, a cold whisper, "You were never alone." The lights flickered and went out. In the dark, Sarah felt a hand on her shoulder.